Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm your host, David Baxter, and I am joined today, as usual, by my co-host, Gary, the professional yodeler Voigt.
You weren't supposed to tell everybody that, but hey, how's it going? And we're here to discuss topics ranging from tech news, software development, small businesses, startups, leadership, and strategies for growth. It sounds like a lot, but they are all related. We'll also try to keep you mildly entertained as we go.
No promises. All right. Speaking of entertained, look at this segue. Did you see the images from the James Webb?
I'm still looking at them. And when I say still looking at them, it's just that one. Like, I can't stop going from corner to corner to corner, trying to figure out every little light blip, whether it's a galaxy, a solar system, a star, whatever. It's insane.
I saw they came out with all of them today. I've seen some of them. I haven't seen them all.
I've only seen the one that
they're
they
just
pushed, like the big, the big reveal one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they get cooler. They actually get cooler because they're zoomed in a little bit, if that's the right word. I don't know. The thing I don't like about it, I'm just going to say, because this is ignorance talking, I will readily say that. I know that those colors are fake because that photo that everyone's looking at was taken only in infrared, meaning there was no color at all. So the color was completely added for our benefit, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just like, that's not what space really looks like, right? It's not going to be this gorgeous, colorful thing. Or am I just stupid? I mean, that's entirely possible. But that's what all these space photos always bother me because it paints this gorgeous picture, which isn't real.
Discounting the photos are taken in infrared, but there's information there in math that shows every kind of form of light on that spectrum is related to a color that we can or cannot see in our visual spectrum.
So you're saying to me that if I somehow could see one of those amazing things with my naked eye, which I know is impossible, but that it would be that orange color potentially?
As far as we can tell from the way human eyes see color, this is as close as it would actually be.
This is accurate.
Based on...
I mean, it's amazing.
It's just
I'm
like
not
your
taking
color
anything away from it.
Your computer produces color based on light, right? Your monitor only outputs red, green, blue, and white light. So that combination of those is what gives you the colors. Now, when they're looking through this infrared, where they're taking the pictures and they have like the readings and the numbers from the actual spectrum of light, I think they're able to assemble the colors from that.
Okay. I mean, I've never, and that's the best explanation, honestly, that I've heard. Because everybody else is like, I don't know.
I like the idea that it's seeing 13 billion years of light.
Yeah, I mean, it's
crazy.
It's so cool. I don't want to take anything away from it because I know, and especially when you look at some of the other ones, there's another one of the pictures that shows a black hole, but it doesn't. It shows the light around it. It's so stupidly bright because it's sucking in all that light. They say it's 40. Oh, I don't know. I just had it up actually. It was, what is it? 40 billion times brighter than our sun. I mean, crazy. The numbers don't make any sense.
That's insane.
It's just, this whole thing is just so wild to me. I'm a huge space nut. It always makes me sad because every time I see something like this, it is further proof that Star Trek can never happen.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say makes you feel insignificant, like we just exist on a speck of dust going through an endless. But you're like, no, makes me mad at Star Trek.
I want to be. Well, our laws of physics prevent Star Trek from happening unless you can figure out wormholes, which is a whole different thing. And I don't know anything what I'm talking about. But like these galaxies that they're showing are so far away that even if Star Trek did exist, you'd still never make it. Like ever. Ever in a million years at light speed.
Even if those even still exist. That's the other thing.
Sure. Yeah, it might be gone.
What the universe is endlessly expanding infinitely upon itself.
There was a quote
never idea
that I want to read that they said when they announced the first one. What was it? It was if you held a grain of sand, this isn't the exact quote, but it's pretty close. If you held a grain of sand at arm's length, that is how much of the universe you are currently seeing.
Wow.
That's how small this amazing picture really is of the universe. It's just so cool. It's just so cool. If you haven't seen it, seriously, you owe it to yourself. I mean, these things make the Hubble look like a kindergarten sketch. There was another article. We should probably post this up. There was another article on The Verge that showed the same picture taken years ago from another telescope.
Oh, okay. Like the same area of space.
Yeah, same little speck of space. It showed what the other one, and it was still a really neat picture, right? It was really cool, and the little blobs were there. But now what's amazing is you can actually see detail in those blobs. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah,
absolutely worth your time.
All right, I wanted to talk about organization a little bit because it's something that I kind of thought I had under control, but then it kind of gets out of my hands quite a bit, and it's just from normal day-to-day stuff. So I was going to ask you, like, I'm somewhat organized, and I keep a little field notes booklet by my side. I'll write down tasks for the days or reminders, but when we have like big projects or tasks, we'll put it up in the app we use is ClickUp to kind of manage that stuff. And then we put other smaller tasks within that. But so I kind of keep my projects and my task lists and my reminders somewhat together. And I tend to find the little things throughout the day, like questions coming in or small little favors or requests, or, someone's like, just real quick, can you get me this? Or, hey, can you just send me this real quick? Those seem to kind of build up and kind of steer me away from the task that I've written down, or it seems like it's just taking too much time in between, and I can't really laser focus on seeing what the big picture stuff that I need to get done and out of the way. I don't know how to clear that other stuff off my plate and just get to the big items. And I know we've talked about this before, and you have a lot of good methods to kind of handle this. And I thought, well, I'm sure those methods you probably built up over time out of necessity, because when you go from being a freelancer to then starting a small little agency and then building it up to what you have to be able to focus on the big picture stuff. So
I think my superpower, as it were, is I can jump between tasks with very little ramp up, which is relatively unusual, especially for a developer. Most developers need like 20, 30 minutes to get in the zone. I've never needed that. And that's, I think, running a business, I think any business leader, owner will appreciate the fact that that's a huge deal, to be able to bounce between them. Because as a business owner, I'm doing different things every 20 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're wearing all the hats. So
you wear, especially when you're tiny. You're the only hat in the house, right? So you get to wear all of them. And a client calls, and you've got to shift immediately to their world. And then you get off the phone, and then a developer needs help, and you've got to shift into their world. And then you need a design, not help, because you're better than me, but you want me to give feedback. And so I got to shift into that world, and you've got to be able to do that. But when it comes to organization, I don't know if I'm any better at it than anyone else. What I find is my brain can hold a certain number of tasks and keep them in order. Once that number of tasks has exceeded that number, I now have to bring in extra goodies. And I have changed what those goodies are. I used to use Microsoft To Do, which used to have another name. They bought it. I can't remember. It had a really cool name that they bought it, and they turned it into Microsoft To Do because they don't know how to name things. That works okay. I have now, we talked about in the past, my Japanese calligraphy notebook. My favorite.
I've used apps in the past too, like Things and Asana and stuff like that, just for daily stuff. But I do find that writing down the stuff actually helps it connect to my brain a little bit better, so they're a little quicker with the recall of what is on that list without having to look it up.
Well, and I think some of this is I'm getting old, but there is something very, as a tech nerd, I have gotten excited by the fact of using a lo-fi tool such as a pen and paper.
Analog,
there's something very nice about that you can't, even if you, I guess if you had a Wacom tablet or whatever, is that how you say that? I've always wondered that. Do I say that wrong? Is it Wacom? Wacom?
I believe technically it's pronounced Wacom, but
okay.
Everybody says Wacom or Wacom, but I think it is Wacom. Doesn't matter.
I know you've been using them for like 20 years. So
but it's still not nearly as satisfying as using like a pen to paper.
Well, and I joke that I have an iPad Pro, which is basically $1,000 piece of paper, because the only thing I use it for is to take notes. or watch TV.
The
if I'm on
tech's
plane.
not just a piece of paper, but your use for it.
I'm using it,
Leaves it
as a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that is, not ideal. But I find that the way that works best for me is, as a company, let me back up. If we want to back up as a company, the way that we've decided, and this is done truly through the School of Hard Knocks, because we have done it all and we have failed and dropped tasks a lot of times. What we have found was when we started using Slack years ago, when we really embraced remote work, Slack was what we did everything in. We hey, you need to do this, and that was a task, right? We typed it up and threw it over the wall, and that was a task. And
when there's only
over time,
a few people, yeah, that seems like it'd be fine because it's just quick communication.
It's still a bad
When
idea.
We have, well, I mean, I'm looking at our Slack now, and we're not a huge company, but within our channels, we have to have almost 15 different channels, at least 9 different people having conversations, and then also splintering off into threads from those conversations. There's no way you can keep that organized in Slack.
Well, and you see 15 channels. I see about 45.
Yeah, I have a limited view of just what I need to see, and that's still kind of overwhelming at times.
I will say, as my best tip, if you are a business owner or a leader of any sort and you guys have embraced Slack, the best thing you can do is start muting channels. If you are not muting channels, and I tell this every time I stand up a new channel, because I'm the admin on our Slack account, so I have all the channels, unless it's private that someone else has made, but anything I have made is here, so I have all of them. I tell them immediately, here's your channel, I'm muting myself, ping me if you need me, I'm out. Because, and Gary and I had this conversation actually just totally off the podcast. We had this conversation because he was getting overwhelmed by Slack. And I was like, dude, start muting. It'll change your life. And he did. And it absolutely changes it. Because there's something human. If I see a little red doomaflichi that says, you're here, I have to look at it. It's compulsory. I have to see it.
That is as is intended by design. It was designed specifically to do that, to let you know, hey, look.
But if you don't turn it off because it's not important, it even drives me nuts because I'm in the channel. If someone says at here, I get pinged.
Oh, at here and at channel. Those.
Be careful how you
backfire.
use those.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not trying to give Slack tips, but generally speaking, that is a way to stay organized. But what the biggest change we did as a company, and I think it really helped, was we decided that Slack was for conversations and discussion, and ClickUp was for decisions. So me and Gary will be chatting, and we decide this is the right way to do it. We then stop the conversation, create a task in ClickUp, and we move on. Because ClickUp's not going to get buried behind 5,000 things like we were just talking about. And that made a huge difference. Now we have tasks and then inside of ClickUp, which is why we use it, but this isn't an ad for ClickUp. You can do it in any of them. But you can then converse inside ClickUp about that task. And that's really handy.
And discuss and upload images and links and videos and all that stuff too.
And that's really handy. And again, ClickUp is not magical. Jira does this, Asana does this. It's fine. I mean, whichever one you want to use. But when you make a decision, put it in your management tool so that you don't have to now keep it in your brain, because it's going to get lost in Slack, guaranteed, or Teams or whatever you're using.
I think
that would be the number one thing.
Trying to do at this point, I'm taking your advice, muting channels. ClickUp is where the big overall arcing project picture lives. But then the small things within that, I could put tasks in each project, but sometimes it takes too long just for me to write a task for my own self to remember up and ClickUp and then check it again when I could just write it down on my little list. So I'm trying to develop that hierarchy in a sense that is going to allow me to block everything out and say, okay, for design tasks, the more interruptions that are made, the slower it's obviously going to be, because the flow of what you're thinking about. Yeah, your brain is doing all the math, doing all the user interactions and flows as you're designing. And it sounds stupid because everybody thinks design is just drawing boxes, picking colors and fonts. But the amount of stuff that you're actually thinking about. And then when you get into a rhythm doing that, say if there's something as simple as a sign-up screen. Yeah, I've done a bunch of them. You know exactly what's supposed to be there. But once you start that process, if you were to be taken away from that process, every second or third little thing that you put down, that process that would have taken 10 to 15 minutes now takes an hour and a half. Just because every time you're being pulled away, then there's another pull away from that pull away. Because when you're asked a question, then you got to respond to the question. And then there's usually a response to your response. And then you got to check Slack to see if that response actually went over. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to figure out a way where I can block out chunks of time that I'm focused. And so far, it's been getting better. But I'm thinking as I'm learning this, I can't be the only one. And
Sure. Oh, for sure. And there's two big things that I would say. One, and some people need this, some people don't. It sounds like you need this. Put on your calendar blocks of time that are for a specific project. That's only you. You're not meeting with anybody, but you're blocking that time off. This
so
is
that
a big
you
deal.
can't be interrupted by invites.
You're not being interrupted.
Getting into that time.
And you're being productive, right? You're being productive. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So if someone comes in and tries to invade your space, you can pretend like you're in a meeting. Like that's the mindset is that you're in a meeting. You're in a meeting with yourself, sure, but you're in a meeting, and that means your priority is to do X. And so you're doing X. Like if you were talking to a client and someone slacked you, you're going to ignore them. And you're not going to feel any guilt about it because you are with that client. When you block it out and you set yourself in the mindset, you can now ignore everything like you're in a meeting and get your stuff done, an hour or two, and then you go and check your email or whatever. That would be another big thing. I do that sometimes when it gets really bad and I have a definite deadline I have to do. I did it last Friday.
Yeah.
But that's a really good one. The other big thing, this was life-changing for me, turn off all of your email notifications, every single one of them. Email will eat your day faster than anything on the planet. And the best thing you can do for your time management is to take control of your own email, meaning you check it when you decide to check it. You don't check it when someone else tells you to check it. Then that's what a notification is doing. Notification is telling you and is taking away your time from you. Does that make sense? You don't get to choose when you check your email. It's telling you now, oh, you have to check your email. And here's the story behind that. So we have a client that has, we've had many clients, but clients that are overseas, right? And when it's not even that, but that was a big part of it, was I would get dinged early in the morning. That was one reason I turned off notifications. But the other one, this is a sad story. Early on, we had some cranky clients. We were getting our feet underneath us. Things went sideways. It happens. I would get emails from them, and it was giving me an anxiety. I'm not an anxious person, but I was dreading. Ding, right? The ding on my phone would immediately make my heart go up.
Is what went wrong? Who's mad?
I would assume that someone was mad at me. And so I would, with dread, pick up my phone and check my email or my computer, whichever one I was sitting at. And that really, it was a very uncomfortable. So I finally decided, no, none of that. And now very few emails have to be responded to right this second. I do leave Slack notifications on because the only people in Slack are my people, and they need to have access to me. So I leave that on. But turn off your email notifications. It will change your life as a business owner or leader. I mean, you don't have to be the owner, but anyone who leads people or is client interfacing, holy cow. But I will tell you, you will feel like you are letting your clients down by doing that. But I promise you're not.
Yeah, I've also read things, just other ways designers and creatives get organized. One of the methods, and this was from Matthew Encina, who was a designer that used to work at the Future.
John Cena?
Blind. No, he's
not John
much
Cena.
smaller and way cooler. No, but he had this thing. I don't remember the name of the method, but the takeaways that I got from him were apparently there's during your normal time of the day between when you start work and when you end work, there's usually a 90-minute span of time that you can actually achieve like the highest level of output. And if you have 90 minutes of uninterrupted time per day, you'll probably be able to get 3 to 4 hours worth of work done within that 90 minutes, as long as it's uninterrupted and it's in that right part of the day. And everybody's part of the day might be a little different. It might be mornings, like, get your coffee, turn everything else off, write down your task and start. Or it could be some people in the afternoon after lunch when they feel more energized. So you got to kind of have to figure that out for yourself.
I have two of those.
Yeah. Another method
I'm
was
jazzed up about 10 a.m. and I'm jazzed up about 2 p.m.
Yeah, 45-minute chunks throughout the day to figure out when that is for you. Typically, the idea of this whole thing is when you start dedicating yourself to that 90 minutes, you're going to get a lot done, and it's going to go by, and it's going to go by fast. And next thing you know, that 90 minutes turns into 3 hours, 3.5 hours, 4 hours. And then the more output you have per day, just from that practice of turning everything off, focusing in, and going for a stretch of time uninterrupted. But you do need to take a break, like before and after that, to kind of free your mind back into the creative thought process.
One of the things, on that same note, one of the things that we run into with clients and people who just don't know development, everyone's like, hey, you're supposed to be working 8-hour days. I expect you to be coding 8 hours. And what you learn by working with developers is that is not possible.
No.
Unless
Most
you just want to
people-
burn them to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, unless
Developers-
you're on an assembly line in a factory, most people cannot actively just work in a situation like that where it's 100% brain to brawn trying to solve problems and knock things out for that stretch of time effectively.
If you have a cerebral job, and that could be anything, but any creative, mind-specific job, you probably will get 4 hours max out of that person, out of productive time. And of course, crunch time, there are exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, day in, day out, if you get 4 good, solid hours of development out of your team, you're doing okay. And that's just, but it's important to know, it's like, well, then you should only be billing me 4 hours a day, right? That's the next follow-up for that. The problem is it takes 8 hours to get that 4 hours. Does that make sense? That's the kicker.
Yeah,
You've got to be able to let your mind react. Relax, not react. Relax. You've got to let it breathe, get creative, because most of the stuff's a creative process of some form.
Yeah, that's the same thing with experience. Like back when I was freelancing, there were certain projects that might only take me about an hour and a half to complete, but it might take some other designer, 6-7 hours to complete, and it's only based on experience because I already know exactly what I need to do. Like if it were a print project and I had been a print designer for 10 years previous to this project, I'm going to bang it out pretty quick. You know what I mean? But does that mean I charge them for the amount of time it actually took me? Or do I charge them for you got to bundle the experience in there as well. So when you were saying that you might get 4 hours of dedicated work out of an 8-hour day from a developer, at the same time, if that's a really good developer and an experienced developer, you're going to get 4 hours of quality work that might have taken a junior developer or someone with less experience 3 days to complete. So
Sure.
it's always a give and take, and it's more of a just how people are able to clear away the stuff, the tertiary things that are around them, the fog or the noise. Get some time to organize and focus and try to get some effective quality work out of them for a stretch of time.
Reminds me of that old joke. It was a guy hires a plumber and I got a leak. I've looked everywhere. I don't know what's going on. Something's wrong with my pipes. And the plumber comes in and walks down into the, under the house or whatever, and it starts dinging here and walks around, dinging there. Dings a third time. It sounds a little different. Does a couple of twists. Boom. Problem's fixed. $200, please. What do you mean $200? It was 15 minutes. He said it took me 20 years to learn how to do that. That's what you're paying for. I just love that story, but I don't know if it's real, but it's a great story. I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful. Or I think thinking about keeping yourself organized, keeping your company organized, little tricks. I think it's worth investing in finding out what your tricks are because everyone's different. I mean, mine was to get a little notebook here that I love here and my little fancy pen, I'm getting all my fancy stuff here. That was motivating and fun for me. How we manage Slack, just learned, look at you. Field notes. You got the little bitty one. Nice.
Yeah. Super easy to carry around.
I think it's worth investing. It could be pen and paper. It could be an app. It could be whatever. But take the time. If you're running a business and it's getting any level of success, you're going to start dropping stuff. And if you're not dropping stuff, then either you're superhuman, that's cool, or you dropping stuff and you don't know it. And that's what you don't want, is to wake up in a week and a half and realize you missed a deadline because you forgot something really important. It doesn't happen very often, but it can, and it's worth doing. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah. And practice. You have to form the habits.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been fun, as always, to talk to you, Gary. Where can they reach us if they have any questions?
If you have any questions or comments, ideas for topics for us to talk about, you can always email us at hello@thebigpixel.net. You could also go to our YouTube page, and under any of the videos, just leave a comment there. You could check us out.
Or if you want yodeling lessons, where do they sign up for those?
We don't talk about that.
Oh, sorry. All right. Well, then I will go under my rock. That's right. That was in the contract, man. That was in the contract. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next time.
See ya.